Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And thank goodness, right?
No kidding.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And thanks for being here with us tonight.
Yeah.
We're sitting here laughing because, we always kind of watch that intro along with you guys. And we are thinking that we are going to need some updated video clips coming up. So we've had a lot of adventures in open water and hopefully some in ice to come. But we'll have to see what makes its way into that intro. That'll be kind of funny.
That will be fun.
We tend to start off kind of talking about fishing, how fishing is going for us. But, one of the things is we took this entire last weekend to go on a huge long trek through Minnesota and ultimately end up camping. We had kind of an event to go to, and that was really great. We thought we were going to do a whole bunch of shore fishing, but weather really, really got in the way. Actually, the first day we were going to do our pop-up trailer, we decided to not even because there was tornadoes. So yeah. That was crazy. And so the camping went great, and we did come back for a day of fishing, but because we had been off the water for, 2 weeks at that point, I was out of routine. We forgot the graphs.
Yeah.
So what did we do?
Oh, well, we went fishing. We weren't going to drive back for just the graphs.
That's true.
I know some people that might, but we're better than that.
Well, and we were at a lake that we had been to several times before. And the thing about this is, when you fish a lake more than once or twice or three times, you know where you've seen success or you see trends in where fish could be. So although we had not been to this lake in several weeks, we were able to, give it our best try. And so in that case, we started kind of earlier in the morning and we were doing some trolling along weed edges because that's something that you can visibly see. So Josh did an amazing job navigating the boat, and I caught the crappies for the day. So lucky me. That was awesome. But those were it. We had only gotten, I think, one pretty decent one and honestly one small one, and that was that. So we switched methods, and what did we do?
Well, we used the old school line up the house and line up the tree and kind of used our memory and hit some deep structure on the lake. And it ended up working out pretty well. Fortunately, there's a few of the piles out in 20 feet that you can actually see.
Yeah, the branches stick up
at least with your glasses on. So you could see the branches, and then we got to throw out some of our marker buoys, which we haven't got to do in a whole long time. So, it's a good tool to have in the boat, whether you have graphs or not, whether you have spot lock or not, just to have a visual of where your target is, and you're able to cast to different sides of it, front and back. It just gives you a way to index where your target is. So having those in the boat is not only important for when we forget the graphs, but for just being able to cast and utilize your space around your target.
The other thing that was great about that is sometimes when you put out a marker buoy, Josh threw out like a bright orange one. You could see it from probably 12 lakes down. But the thing about that, it was the perfect day to use it because it was a Monday. So don't tell work that I took off to go fishing, but I did. And after a long weekend, that's what happened. And it was the right decision because we caught bluegills. The fish were biting. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun. We got to, we did a little bobber fishing. We did some vertical fishing. We did some casting. When bluegills are hitting a 2-inch stinger, like a minnow bait. They're pretty big, and they were hungry, and it was good. We mixed in a couple bass.
Yeah, that's true.
We saw a mystery fish.
Josh saw a mystery fish.
It was a really big mystery fish. So I don't know what it was, but it was big. And it was down there in the trees with the rest of the fish. So probably Loch Ness. That'd be my guess.
It was not that long.
You didn't even see it.
It was funny. You described it numerous times. It's awesome. We've all had that experience in the boat. That's pretty funny. So, with that, let us know how your fishing season is going. Let us know what you're fishing for. Let us know, what bait you're using. I don't know. Give us some details because I'm interested in that. We're gonna hit the water this weekend and it's gonna be raining, so I wanna give my best bet first.
Yeah, for sure.
So with that, let's bring in our guest here. So we have Matt Russ with us, and welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, bud.
Good evening. How are you guys?
Wonderful.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. And Matt, for somebody who has not met you, can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I live up in Glidden, Wisconsin. Been a Wisconsin resident all my life. I fish up in the Park Falls area. A lot of people know that that's close to St. Croix Outdoor or St. Croix Factory Outlet. And I'm a little bit spoiled that way. I get to go see a lot of the new gear and shop around there all the time. I chase about anything that swims really around the area. I'm south of Ashland, about 45 minutes. So I get to go run up the Schwamigan Bay and ice fish and troll up there. I run up there quite a bit with Andy Schutte, who you've had on here before, with JT. And then myself, I just love to fish. Basically, that's the bottom line. I love to fish. I love winter fishing. I love bank fishing, running in my boat. Just as long as I can fish, I'll do it. I try to fish 5 to 7 days a week. So I'm out in the water, almost every day.
That's awesome. I'm super jealous of that because I don't get out in the water every day, that's for sure. But I mean, I guess, how is your fishing going right now?
My fishing right now has been kind of fun because I chase a variety of species, and I got to go up to the cabin last weekend and spend some time with family up there, and we all ran around and chased bass and northern pike. I didn't get any big pike, but we got some nice picture fish, some good bass in that 3 to 5 range, but they were not really super hot until the evening bite. And the window was really, really short up there, but that was the night that it got to 43 degrees, I think. That's what it ended up in the morning.
That's cold.
Yeah, it was really cold. So I think that had a little bit to do with it, and but we still had fun. Got to chase them around, and I got to throw the spinners around a little bit. So I had a blast.
Well, and it's always tough to be dealing with a situation where that bite window is so small. For a while, we were fishing a lake on vacation where the bite window got to be, down to, almost a half hour. And then the rest of the day, that even if you found those fish, well, quite frankly, we could not find those fish.
Well, I mean, that lake, so we were fishing Lakewood Lodge on Big Sand, and it went through a really drastic change. So the zebra mussels got in there pretty hard and heavy. It's a sand bottom lake, has some rock in it, and it didn't really take them that long to kind of take over the lake, and it cleared it up so much
so fast
that there really isn't. It's a pretty big main basin, a little bit of points here and there, but there isn't any mid-lake structure really, so to speak. And those fish would come up to the weed lines, like she said, half hour before sun, or half hour about sunrise, and then a half hour at dusk, and that was it. It was a super consistent pattern, but those fish, I would put money on, they just school up and they go out and they just roam around the basin, probably in that 15 to 20 feet of water. And if you ran into them, you could probably cast them, but they're just moving around so much
fast. Yeah.
Just staying away from all the other toothy fish. So,
right. If you're not on them, I mean, that makes for short, kind of boring evening. It's nice to be out there, but still the fishing can be tough, especially with them moving so much, and they'll run up and down those weed lines too.
Right.
Well, and it also makes it tough to decide on the bait to use, because when you have a longer window bite, you can target the fish, you can find where they're at, and then, if they're biting or not, or if you need to upsize or downsize or whatever that is. But when that bite window is so small, you kind of have to have quite the mindset of what you're going to use to get that bite.
Right. Right. It's almost like ice fishing, you know.
Mhm.
You hope you pick that right area.
Yeah.
Otherwise you could be in for a long evening of jigging or
Yeah.
casting or whatever, you know, if you're in the open water. But
Right.
So then when you were there, looking for those bass and you had that short bite window, what were you using that you found success with?
I decided to run a spinnerbait. I usually run a white spinnerbait, willow leaf blades, and I worked the weed line, the secondary weed line. I didn't work in super close, the really shallow stuff. They were kind of on the secondary weed line, um, off of a bay. So when they did go, they went. It was awesome, but it was really short. And the nice thing about spinners is you can cover a lot of water really fast.
Mhm.
So I was able to capitalize on that and got a few picture fish, and it made for a good time. It wasn't a situation where I'd really want to throw a wacky worm, which I really like to use too, because you can fish them fast, but there's still the presentation. You want it more subtle and slow for the reaction bites, in my opinion. Then I usually put a little split shot or a bullet sinker on there and let it flutter a little bit faster. But still, it's really hard to cover water super fast when you're running like the wacky worm or some kind of a jig where you're casting out and just hop, wait for the bite. That spinner, you can move and kind of chase the fish around. So
Well, and that brings up a good point. That's something that is pan fishermen, I guess. I haven't exposed Emily too much to. We have a bunch of the number zero beetle spin blades in the boat,
okay,
and you can do the same thing for crappies. You can take the jig and twister setup and just throw a spinner blade on it. You clip it on there, and then you tie directly to the spinner blade, and do something similar to what Matt's suggesting for bass. Only it's just a smaller profile, and you can cover a lot of water. Honestly, like that's not so much up our alley, like our style, and
right.
so I just forget to do it, honestly.
Yeah, it's a good thing to
But
remember.
it's a great tip.
Well, and I think it's the right time of the season to be doing it, because when you are using a bait like that, you are mimicking a minnow, but you're mimicking kind of a larger minnow, something that's really reflective, swimming fast or moving around a lot. And, if you use that too early spring, fish are not ready for that, and so you got to wait until this time, all the way into fall. Like, this is actually perfect time to be talking about this. Like, start doing this now. People are talking about these tough bites in summer, and a lot of times fish will, like you're saying, suspend around the different basins, and if you bump into them or not. But one of the things that's in your favor is if you can use something that the fish can see really well too, because then it's not just you looking for them, then they can see you too. And water clarity makes a huge difference. So we're talking about if it's clear water, but Matt, you were talking earlier that you oftentimes have tannic water.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I've sat there in 18 foot of water over suspended schools running a slip bobber, but that's really not my style. It's very effective, but I like to action fish more, do a little snap jigging, that type of thing. So it depends on what your preference is, because you can also run and gun really fast along weed edges if you use a bobber and some type of hair jig or one of them chicken feather jigs, and you can just cast it, see if you get some action, and just keep shooting down the shoreline like that and try to find those fish that are right on the weed edges, and you can speed it up a lot.
Well, okay, so Matt, I'm going to stop you there really quick, because you are making another really great point. And I think, honestly, you covered it really well, but I'm even going to kind of go over this again, because a lot of times people hear bobber and they think like little red and white bobber, and that it sits on the water and then you wait for it to go down, if it ever does, if it's the right bait, and so that's not what you're doing here. So what kind of bobber are you using, first of all?
Well, I like to use like a thill bobber. I'll use a throw bobber or a snap-on bobber, and I'll have it, 2 to 3 foot depending on the weeds. And a lot of times crappies or panfish will give themselves away because they'll slurp up at the top for bugs, and there'll be a lot of activity. You'll see minnow movement, which is really good to key in on. This time of year, as fish are changing their forage, like earlier it was as they're eating mayflies, or now they're kind of chasing minnows, or so that'll decide your depths a little bit. But if you've got some active fish on top of the water, if you throw a little cork on there and just start speed casting along those edges, it'll just drop down. And a lot of times you get that reaction bite, like say when you're throwing a bass lure. The crappies will go after it, the panfish will go after it. It's kind of more of a instantaneous bite. And it makes it more, I think it makes it a little bit more exciting than putting anchors down or putting spot lock on and sitting there watching a bobber, float, if you're lucky to have a little breeze, float along the edge of the weeds. And you can target those fish for however deep they are in the column. If they're not hitting at 1 foot or 2 foot, you can adjust your jig really quick with just one of those clip-on bobbers and zoom right along. And if you find active fish, it's good to stay there for a little bit and cast around that area, because a lot of times they'll typically school up. And I'm sure you guys experience that too.
Yeah, the schooling up. And then I always feel like, I don't know if fish actually swim in circles, but I always feel like they kind of circle back. So maybe what they're doing is, following forage around an area, be that a deep spot or a rock or whatever's, the structure there through the weeds. But a lot of times I do feel like what you're saying is right, that fish will kind of come and go, and, a little patience, but targeting, you're casting around. And so you can find them in their movement as you go too.
Right. And making those subtle adjustments, maybe just your depth. I've had it where I've been casting along and you literally put it 1 foot below the bobber and you'll get hit. And then other nights you'll be like, why isn't this working? And you put it 3 foot down and kind of cast in the same areas, and they hit you on the bottom. I don't know if it's a forage change or their mood. It could be something to do with the pressure too. But sometimes they're just down a little bit further, but they'll come up, slurp, go back down, and so it's fun. I really enjoy pan fishing. I like it. You guys talked about trolling for crappies, and that's something I really, really love to do. Nice thing about doing that is you can catch some bonus walleyes, smallmouth bass, northern, but you can use your electronics and get those fish that a lot of people aren't targeting. Mm-hmm. You can chase a little bit deeper schools. Now, one of the lakes up here that I have is basically its max depth is 9 foot. So to find fish in there, it can be hard, and you can try the weeds and the bobber deal, but like you say, sometimes you got that short little bite window. I found that if I pull out and I troll the deeper edge of the weed line, that all of a sudden I'm getting those bigger fish, and I'm catching while the guys are sitting there spot locked or anchored.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm passing by them and they're like, how you doing? Not too bad. And then all of a sudden sploosh, sploosh, sploosh behind me, and it's like, I'll be right back. Really, you're fishing. I'm not saying that I get to do it all the time, but you guys get the point. Sometimes you're targeting fish that other people aren't, and it's a good way to cover water. Using your electronics is a real big help in that situation, But if you follow the weed line visually, like you guys were talking about, you can do it without electronics. You just push yourself out a little bit. If you've got a trolling motor, you slide out a little bit and see if the fish are there. And you just kind of weave your way back and forth. And I found that really effective to be able to get a hold of those crappies.
Well, and in that weaving too, especially when you're using jigs and twisters for trolling, that it'll speed them up at a consistent rate when you take your out turn, and then it'll slow it down depending on what side of the boat the rod's on. You know, one will speed up and one will slow down, and then the same on the opposite side. And so it does give you a little bit of vertical coverage too. One thing I really like about this time of year in trolling is that you can put out different size baits and catch almost anything trolling. And so, you know, you can put out your 2-inch twister for panfish, you know, or you could throw out like your number 5 shad, like flicker shad, you know, and you can run both of them at 10 feet, and you can catch, like you said, you're catching walleyes and pike and bass, and everything could be on there. And you could even catch, you know,
big perch, smallmouth.
You can, but that, like you said, some of those bigger crappies and bigger bluegills, like you'd be surprised what they'll hit when something comes past them.
Well, that's right. I was going to talk about that. Is that size doesn't matter with a lot of these fish. We've talked about using Ned rigs for panfish.
Yeah.
And I've used, you know, the 3 and a 4-inch tail, and this nice bluegill hits it, and little bluegill and little crappies. It's amazing what they will try to down in order to grab themselves a meal. Big crankbaits. We're running 10-inch crankbaits, you know, Rattle and Rogue. And I'm like, this is crazy. One other thing I like to troll, I don't know if you guys have tried it. I know Euro Tackle makes some real small rattle baits. And I think that is a great kind of hidden secret to use. I use the Spot by Cotton Cordell. It's about 2 inches, and I use a chrome one. And I run them sometimes as slow as 0.6.
Oh.
And I'll just have that thing just bounce in the bottom. And I can't believe the amount of fish I catch. I catch crappies with it. I catch bluegills with it. Walleyes, the perch will hit it. Of course, you get bass and northern and stuff. But it's a really effective tool. And I think that rattling, like a lot of the lures, like the walleye lures, if you've got that rattle and it's tannic water or stained water, you can really help call in them fish too.
I actually love hearing about that, because this time of the year, I mean, we have a lake that we're talking about, we're catching bluegills because there's all this brush there. But if you have a lake where there isn't that kind of structure available, those bluegills, they spread out on mud flats and stuff, and it is hard to find them. It is hard to get that bite sometimes. And, you know, when you are putting the sound and you're putting the motion of it hitting the ground, and you're putting, you know, that bait just where those fish are. I mean, you know, you're saying you can catch all of these other things too, walleyes even, but I love that aspect for the big bluegills, because those can be hard to find, and that sounds like a really great tip.
And they'll also eat. You know, that's the thing. A lot of times is that you're going after these fish. More often than not, they're the ones that are gonna you know, hit it just spontaneously. They're going after it, and boom, they don't think about it. Next thing you know, they're hooked and on Facebook, you know.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's awesome. So then, with fall fishing coming up, is that what you're doing? Is you're trolling around, or you start looking deeper for fish?
For fall fishing, I generally go to the snap jigging with a minnow on. Usually I use like a gulp minnow, but Billy Rub came out with the Hot Shot, and it's roughly about 3.2 inches or something, and I'll snap jig that, and I'm working edges of the deeper holes, the breaks, and you find the fish on the graph, you kind of spot lock and try to jig, you just try to snap jig them up, and it's sometimes the cadence depends. It depends on the fish. Sometimes their mood is negative, neutral, and you just have to do a slow, bring it up slow and let it fall. And sometimes they just kind of want it snapped quick, and you get that reaction bite. So that's my favorite way to fall fish. But if I'm trolling, I actually troll really shallow. I don't share that too often, so I mean, but I troll really shallow. A lot of the fish that I catch are in 5 foot of water, 6 foot of water. Mm-hmm. So I'm trolling really shallow, and that's with the crankbaits too. I'll use crankbaits in the fall. I'll start using the smaller cotton cordels. I'll use those little cotton cordel rattle trap like deals, and I'm trolling in about 6 to 8 foot of water, give or take. Mm-hmm. And then when I do more of the snap jigging type of things, I'm basically off the structure, doing that, and then casting in, and then bringing it back out to me, because they're usually kind of like in between, especially if I don't know where they're at exactly. But if I see schools, it's fall is my favorite time of year, because a lot of the fish school up again. And when you get on those schools, then you can really, get some confidence in lures.
Well, not to mention the water's pretty quiet in the fall.
Yeah, it is. Oh my goodness. Yes. We all love jet skiers.
Yeah, love.
Yes. The only thing is that everybody on a jet ski, have you ever not seen them smile? So they're having fun, and I've been that guy. Yeah. But when you're fishing, you do kind of curse them.
They only seem to go by when I'm fishing brush piles that I don't want my hook to get stuck, and that's what I'm bummed about. Yeah.
Oh,
that's funny.
Precision jigging, and next thing you know, your boat's rocking pretty hard.
Seriously, that's what happens.
Yeah.
So do you guys get into the fall fishing? Is that exciting for you guys?
Yeah. So we do. We don't do that much for snap jigging. We do a lot of, we might even bust out the Vexilars,
tossed up beside the boat,
and the ice rods on a couple trips, and just practice our vertical jigging a lot of times.
Oh, that works really good. Yep.
Yeah, it's a really fun time. I'm just thinking, coming up here, I'll probably post something on our page again. We have one of those deep release systems, like they use on deep sea vessels for like grouper and stuff. If anybody's ever watched like a ocean fishing show, they pull the fish up and the swim bladders out of the mouth and the eyeballs are popped out, and those fish are obviously distressed, but you have upwards of like a minute and a half to get that fish back down to depth.
Right.
So we built our own little rig with a catfish weight and a pretty big catfish hook, honestly, and an ice rod, and you just free spool it down. And once the fish gets down, everything kind of sucks back in because the pressure equalizes for them. And the hook is barbless, so it just pops right off.
Well, and tied on upside down.
Upside down, yep. Mm-hmm. So then you just pull them down by their bottom lip, and then when you can feel them start wiggling, then you just lift up, and then the fish is off of it. And so that, I don't like to do it a lot of times, just because one, it kind of messes up the school. You get a bunch of fish, and then you get this weight dropping down every couple of minutes, but it's a good way to keep the fish alive when you're, at least when you're trying to keep some for the table and you catch a small one here or there. But
okay.
we try not to fish over 30 feet very often. Otherwise, like you said, a little bit of shallow trolling. And it's just nice being out there. The colors, the temp is a lot nicer than sitting in 90 degrees.
Oh, for sure.
It's just beautiful.
Yep. I've been watching Head to Head lately, and that's that online walleye tour.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been pulling fish lately out of 45 foot of water.
Ooh.
So, holy man. And they're only supposed to be able to let the fish barely, you have to be below the gunnel in order to release them. And they're doing the drop shot where they're trying to do the shock thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really tough. Ice fishing, you'll have that barotrauma too.
Yeah.
If you're fishing really deep, you can get that barotrauma, and it's basically there's not a whole lot that you can really do for them, except for get more extreme.
Yeah.
And it's basically you kind of got to keep those fish.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of why we built that rig up and why we try not to target fish that deep most of the time. But that's something I will put back up because we did put that up last year. That was something, and we tried it out and it worked really well. It's super easy, tip up line and a catfish weight basically.
Okay.
So
all right, yeah, I've never heard of that, but that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and they have commercial ones for sea fishing.
Oh yeah,
but they'd be way too big for crappies.
Well, yeah, obviously.
So then, are you also the kind of person who's looking forward to winter? Have you done any kind of like prep yet, or thought about that at all?
No, I've started it, and I'm sure I'll probably be doing some lives and stuff myself with some HT products. Nice. And some of the Snyder Lures is going to have something coming up. We always do, and this is their 100-year anniversary. So I'll be prepping for that type of stuff. I've got to visit the Striker store because I have to get a new jacket this year, and I thought I'd give them a little bit shout out, and then I may actually go with the Climate Bips this year. I've had good luck with Striker, and I've been able to. They keep me out fishing.
Yeah.
If I didn't have my Striker gear on, I would not be able to leave my hub.
That's
seriously. You're out there in the wind and the elements and stuff, and it's okay for an hour. But when you're on your third hour punching holes, dragging stuff around, chasing fish, and you can't really be in your shack, especially like midday. Where the fish aren't in that little nice school that you can sit in your ice shack. You got to go chase them around. Even like on red, everybody's in shallow, and then they go back out deeper. And I'm able to get out there with my Striker gear on and fish in all the elements. So for fall, I've got it on. I mean, I wear my Striker stuff all year long, hunting, trapping. I actually wear it out deer hunting, and then put a blaze orange jacket over it, and I just stay warm as a bug in a rug. But it's a small investment, but it pays big dividends, especially when you can use it all year. The inner jacket, I can wear that out just on your regular snow days going to work or whatever. And I like that. And then also you guys were showing the Striker. I think you did a picture with a bluegill, didn't you? Bluegill with the Striker blue. And
that was one of the alpha bird hoodies.
Yes. Yeah, one of those hoodies, and I think that's so important to be able to do that. And that one has the hood, right? Correct?
Yeah.
And you're able to get some UV protection with it too. So I really advise people to check out that gear, whether it be summer, winter, fall, they pretty much will meet your needs. And I've enjoyed working with some of the people from Stryker, and then get to meet you guys and see you guys at shows and stuff online here, and it's pretty cool. So anyways, that's my deal about that.
Yeah,
warm.
I love it because you were mentioning the UV gear and the hood and everything, and I am realizing like this is the least tan I've ever been in a summer.
Yeah, I mean, I got a little bit of raccoon eyes going, but normally, if you look back in some of my pictures, like I get pretty bad if I don't wear my hood. And honestly, it's my ears. You know, my ears burn something fierce, and no matter how much sunscreen I put on them, they just don't like the sun in the hood. I love fishing in the hood. It's my favorite.
Me too. You'll see a lot of my fall pictures where I got a hood on me, and it's just nice. It keeps the back of your neck warm too.
Well, and honestly, for summertime, it really blocks out a lot of the sun. So because your glasses can only come up, you know, so close to your face, and it leaves little cracks. But that hood kind of keeps it sits on the brim of your hat, and then it just keeps you in kind of a cave the whole day.
It's pretty much on fishing.
Pretty much.
Except I'm sitting there going, Emily's trying to talk to me, and I'm going, huh?
Well, isn't that normal?
Yeah.
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 I was going to say that's real life, our boat.
Welcome to married life. Yes.
Yeah. That is so funny. Cool. So then, you know, well, I guess I'm going to ask this first. Are you going to any of the shows or anything this year?
I don't know what's going to be open.
Sure.
You know, that's a big thing. You don't know what's going to be open because you've got the Delta variant going on here,
right?
Which is a scary situation. So I don't know what all shows. You guys were mentioning a big show coming up. That's more of like a springish type of thing than Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, Wisconsin Fishing Expo, February.
Yep, that's the end of February. Right. So we're as far as we know, that one's full steam ahead. We'll be posting all kinds of stuff about that. That's a great little spring show.
Right.
Definitely a good time of year because by that time you're trying to thaw out.
Oh yeah.
It's a good, you know, it's end of February, so you're not quite there yet, but it gives you a little time to go look at some cool
kayaks,
boats and stuff. But there's a few ice fishing stuff there too. So it's a nice little mix show.
Right. Start dreaming and scheming for the upcoming year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's important is your gear, you know, getting the right gear, and then you know, being able to take care of it and stuff too.
Yeah.
So you can get something like the Lakewood's products. Like HT has these nice carrying cases. You can get hard cases from some of the guys. Like Eagle makes a pretty decent one. Relatively cheap. I think it's $29.
Mm-hmm.
And taking care of your gear. I don't care how expensive or how cheap it is. If you leave your rods and reels sit in the back of your pickup and get snowed in during ice fishing season, you're gonna complain that they're crap because you didn't take care of them.
Yeah.
You know, you're exposing your gear to the elements, and you know, they should be either in a shed or, you know, try to protect them a little bit, no matter how much money you spend on them.
Right.
And it's not like I'm going to have a JT rod, you know, sitting out there in an ice bucket, you know, with a Daiwa reel.
You'd be amazed.
Yeah, like a Daiwa reel on it, and I wouldn't do that to that, you know. So some of the cheaper line gear, you can do that and have it last for you for years. And do a little bit of maintenance, put a little grease on them, and then just protect your stuff. You know, that's really important too. So I see you guys had that Lakewood container that you were. I didn't get to see the picture of it, which you guys use for your winter boxes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you guys going to post something up about that, or what they look like, or?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Something to the site.
we can do that. There's a new one out this year that we're gonna go take a look at here. Actually come to think of it, you're probably not that far, maybe a couple hours, but they're made just north of Green Bay.
Okay.
And so like for us, it's like a 45-minute drive. So we've been meaning
I get excited. It's shorter than that.
We've been meaning to run up there and take a look at a couple of the new things that they came out ICAST in July. But yeah, we have the large ice rod case. I think it's 43 inches. The new one is 44 inches or 46 inches, something like that. It's made for the back of your ATV.
A little bit bigger, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's really nice. I mean, we can fit six rods in there, more if we don't have the reels on them. But you puzzle them together, and I actually, we have a few of the snare rods in there, and then I can put my shorter like jigging rods in between the reels and kind of stack them in like a staircase.
Right. Okay.
And then the rods aren't bumping off each other. You can fit quite a bit in there. But yeah, it's a super simple case. Has room for a bunch of stuff on the front, and that's what I like about it. It's not overly complicated.
Yeah.
And it really opens up room in my striker bag for more plastics.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, as if you needed that.
You always have to have room. You always have to have room. Yeah, when you're out ice fishing, trying to consolidate stuff and kind of trying to keep it simple, that can be really hard for people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially with plastics, sometimes you got to change that up. I mean, the fish only want this, or that, or they want this kind of presentation. So that, I mean, you almost have to have your plastics or spikes or whatever you use. But when you get to the bigger peripheral stuff, your rods, reels, the heater, you got to be able to protect that stuff. So I've got, I run some HT bags. Well, actually it's the Polar line.
Oh, okay.
And it's really exceptional gear. I really like it, but I can fit tip ups in it and all the other miscellaneous stuff that I have. And if you're running on Chequamegon Bay or up in Superior on the Big Lake, if it freezes, but when you're running around out there, you've got to be able to keep that stuff consolidated. And, I mean, a lot of times you're not able to take your truck out there. You're taking an SUV, like you said,
mm-hmm.
or, so that organization is a really big deal.
Yeah, that Polar stuff seems to be pretty good. Lots of people run it. It's pretty affordable.
The Polar Fire, that series is pretty tough. It's built really good, and it is affordable. That's the thing. I joined up with HT a couple of years ago here, and I just do some field staff stuff. You won't see me generally at shows or anything unless they really needed me there, but they don't do the huge like clam or striker booths, or it usually kind of a nice smaller presentation. Most of their stuff is in a Walmart, L&M, Farm and Fleet type of thing, and it's in your face.
Yeah.
And stuff. So you're not getting it from a warehouse directly from them, at the time. So, but I've been working with them, and I like the affordability, and I run a lot of less expensive stuff. I mean, my bass rod is like $50.
Right.
Yeah.
My reel, which I really love, is Quantum, is like a $39 Quantum. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to have super expensive gear in order to catch fish. You could use a broomstick as long as you got a reel on it and some eyes, and I think, and do well as long as you use your drag correctly and you fight the fish correctly. I mean, that's half the battle. So I don't think you have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but what you get for that is amazing. I get to forget my rods every once in a while and use Andy's JT stuff. And I'll tell you what, it's a night and day difference between feeling and the weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really like running that gear, but I mean, I can see me throwing it in an ice fishing bag or sliding in an ice fishing bag and then snap a tip because I didn't loosen the drag on the reel.
Yeah.
And you know, that would hurt me.
Yeah.
That would hurt me. I would be out that one extra rod. So, you know, obviously you got to take care of your gear, but it doesn't have to be, everything doesn't have to be top shelf.
No.
You know, I mean, you don't have to wear this jersey, that jersey, or a lot of these fishing communities and businesses, they work together as a community, and I think we can mix and match a lot of stuff. You guys see me do it promotionally, whether it be like the Billy Rub, the HT, the Snyder lures, and then I'm over here fishing with some clam stuff, and I'm over here fishing with some, you know, Fraybill stuff. I don't think there has to be a super fine line in the sand. You have to be this on team red or team green, right, whatever. I think you use stuff that works and it'll help you be more productive on the ice.
Well, and what do you always say?
I was just going to say, and that's what I always say, is that's why all those things exist, because what works for one person isn't necessarily right for everybody out there. And so I love what you're pointing about, because it's not about drawing lines or what's best or whatever. It's about what works for each of us. So I love hearing what you're saying. This is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And another thing I try to do, while I've got a little platform, is I try to give love on Facebook, which a lot of people don't do. Some people show pictures of little fish, but you look at the smile on their face and the happiness it brings them. You know, are you going to belittle them because they are catching littler fish? Or let's be excited for their catch and their enthusiasm, and maybe they're going to teach a kid to fish, or, you know, that's their one time to get out and that's all they got. But hey, we got fish, you know. So I try to be as positive as I can and spread it out on Facebook and Instagram.
He's not lying. He likes all of my small fish that I post. No, I mean, that's the thing, is that, you know, we might not catch a bunch of giant fish, but the whole thing is the adventure, right? So fishing isn't, if you're catching a bunch of big fish, you have either way too much time on your hands, and I'm jealous of you, or you're really lucky, right? Because it really comes down to a numbers game until you get into some of the higher end electronics and some of that, and even that, you need experience to use that stuff. Grabbing that stuff doesn't make this fish bite, but it puts you on the fish faster as long as you know how to use it. It's time. It's all the big fish pictures are, for every big fish picture everybody sees, that's weeks worth of fishing to get that one picture. I just like catching fish, whether it's this big or it's this big. I could really care less. I like being out there running the boat, spinning it with my wife and my pup, you know, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing. And it's just, it depends on your fisheries too.
Yeah.
No, I don't have access to Mille Lacs unless I run, I don't know how many hours it is, but it's like 5-6 hours for me to go there. I go up to Red Lake and you get in on that early bite. Everybody looks like a hero. I don't care what I'm serious. I don't care what you're throwing. There's a lot of people that go up there and do their promo stuff up there. I've done it too. Not saying that everybody can catch fish, but when you're talking numbers and stuff like that, yeah, you look great, but the everyday versus Facebook thing reality is different. It's really different. You know, we go out and catch a lot of small fish. to get, like you say, that big fish.
Yep.
Or we're lucky and we have that fishery close and it hasn't been molested yet, or it just keeps producing top fish. So people will have to keep that in mind too.
Yeah.
You know,
it's all for fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Do you guys run up to Red Lake at all?
I have in my younger years. I haven't so much as of late. We just, we've just been focused on other stuff.
We've just been taking other trips, so just not yet.
I mean, I grew up right after the really nice crappies kind of toned down over there, and now they're coming back.
Right.
They're catching them more frequently now.
Right.
And I hear that because some of the walleye guys are whining because their walleyes aren't doing so hot. But that lake is notorious for that, right?
Right.
They go, when the crappies are good, the walleyes are a little bit lacking, and then they kind of mix and they go the other way. And so now that the crappies are coming back, maybe I'll go back over there.
Right. Right. I go up there for the walleyes, and I try. Yeah. I'll do it as soon as they put the wheelhouses on.
Yep.
And I'll get up there, and the ice is generally safe.
Right.
There's no such thing as safe ice, and but I try to go up there early and do that.
Yeah.
I don't like walk 2 miles out there or anything. But I just want to let people know that's sometimes reality is just because you do things a situation. I might look good because I'm up at Red Lake, and the fish are on and they're plentiful.
Yeah.
I might look good because I run over to this lake and it's got some big crappies in it. So everything's kind of relative, and it's not always like that. You're not always going to go out there and bang it. Like today, my big walleye was this big.
Yeah.
And I only got 3 of them. And, I trolled from, I can't even remember what time I started. I started about 8 this morning, and I got back about 4:30, which is bad because you're kind of missing that prime time window. But sometimes I have obligations I got to take care of. I do actually come home.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself to do that too. Actually come home.
Yeah, and that's tough because then you got to clean and do dishes and all that type of thing. So.
That's exactly the problem.
You probably won't find that around here. But I love to fish. I love to go out and have a good time. I've been trying to introduce more people out there and get people without boats out there. And just have fun learning how to fish and fishing. And occasionally we catch fish, and they get posted on Facebook or Instagram. And I appreciate you guys for having this platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was just going to say the same to you. Is thank you for being here, but also for the people who are looking to follow you on social media. How do they do that?
They can just go to my Matt Ress Facebook page. I'm like Matt Ress 7 on Instagram, and I try to post fish almost every day, or pictures of fish that I've gotten. I try to fish literally every day if I can. Awesome. Whether it be before work, after work, or midday. A lot of the fish that you guys see me catch are actually caught between 10 and 2.
It's Emily's favorite time.
It's true. It's my favorite time to be out there, except for when it's 90 degrees out.
Yeah, no, that's terrible.
Because you don't have the traffic and everything. But on the competitive side of me that's when they run tournaments. They don't run them during the hot bite in the morning and the hot bite in the evening. They run them midday, And so I kind of just try to see how good I can do out there.
Well, now you just gave Emily an excuse.
There you go.
Knock it up early, yeah.
There's a lot to be said about that early bite or the late bite. There really is. But you're not usually getting eaten up by mosquitoes either.
That's a good point, because in the evening, that is what happens.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing, your adventures on Facebook and Instagram and all of that. We'll definitely keep in touch with you. And also to the viewers at home, keep in touch with us. Let us know how your fishing season is going. Otherwise, we appreciate you guys being here with us because that was a whole lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And other than that, I don't know, that kind of wraps it up. So I guess thanks for being with us on this episode of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.
Night, everybody.